Yo, what's up everybody? This video is going to be a little bit shorter this week. It's just more of a review of a few things that have come out the last couple of weeks, such as Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the movie Slight, and Injustice 2. So I'm sure a lot of people have been flooded with, information on these few things here, especially because it's been very popular, which is odd. I think except for Slight, maybe Slight was a little bit more under the radar, especially because not a lot of people, I believe, went and saw it. Guardians of the Galaxy, also a really great movie. Came out, not too long ago as well. It's a sequel to, obviously, the first Guardians of the Galaxy. If you haven't seen that, I would watch that. Highly, highly recommend it. Would watch that, obviously, before watching the second one. And Injustice 2, if you haven't played the first one or even read any of the comics, Injustice 2 is a great story. It's a great pickup fighting game, especially if you're new to it. There's not a whole lot of, I'm not going to say technique, because there obviously is some sort of technique to the game, but it's more, I would say it's easier to pick up, in my opinion. At least it was for me. I've gotten a lot better at fighting games just because I started out playing Injustice 2. I did play Mortal Kombat X, and I have played some Tekken games, and, what's that other one called? There's another really popular game. It's like Killer Instinct or something like that. I don't remember. Anyway, not the point. But let's just get into these little reviews here. So let's start out with Guardians of the Galaxy. So I already watched the first one when that came out. I had watched it well before this movie came out, so I'm very familiar with the movie. And I consider myself to be kind of a movie buff. I go to the movie theaters a lot. I do watch a lot of shows. I give my opinion on them if people ask me about them and what I think and how, what I overall think of the movie or show. It doesn't have to just be a movie. So for Guardians of the Galaxy, I'd give that movie, I want to give it an honest thing. I would give it like a 9. And not because I don't want to give it a full on 10 or anything like that, or I'm trying to undermine my opinion, but more of the fact that I felt like it was a little slow at times, and there were some times where, things weren't really necessarily needed, and, some of the humor I thought was a little kind of repetitive. Other than that, the movie is great. The soundtrack for the movie is phenomenal. The acting in it is great. You got, Vin Diesel, who's not in the movie for some reason, because he played Groot in the first one. If you guys didn't know that, you have Vin Diesel. You got, I almost said Brad Pitt. Whew, I almost just blew that really badly. God, I actually just can't remember his name now. For some reason, Brad Pitt came to the mind, and that's who I thought he was. That is definitely not his name. Hold on one second. Why can't I think of this guy's name all of a sudden? What the hell? God, Chris Pratt. Jesus Christ. That's his name. Anyway, the fact that I just forgot that actually kind of bothers me, but whatever. So, obviously, you got Chris Pratt, who plays Star-Lord. You have Vin Diesel, who plays Groot, as I already said. Zoe Zandela, I believe is how you say her name, who plays Gamora. You got Drax, who is played by Dave Bautista, I think is how you say his name as well, and Bradley Cooper, who plays Rocket. So that's just kind of the main cast for the Guardians. There's also Nebula, who's played by Karen Gillan, and you also got Michael Rooker, as Yondu. So you have all these people who do voice different characters or play characters in live action movies, and they all performed wonderfully. I thought their whole lineup, the whole just cast in general, is a great cast for the movie. Chris Pratt obviously plays a very good Star-Lord. He's very funny. He's very comedic. Same thing with Bradley Cooper. I actually didn't know Bradley Cooper played Rocket for the longest time. So when I originally watched the movie, I just assumed it was just some random dude that they got to voice act him. So when I finally looked up the cast to see who it was, because I was curious, I was genuinely shocked that it was Bradley Cooper. But at the same time, it kind of made sense because he kind of has the Rocket humor, I would say. He's fairly funny as a character, I would say, as well. Bradley Cooper obviously plays a good Rocket, and I was kind of happy to see that it was him. But I don't know, a lot of people actually don't know this. They don't know that, who actually plays Rocket, not like the voice, but like who is the motion capture. I remember hearing that it was actually the director's brother, I want to say. I don't think that's wrong. I want to say it's right, but hold on one sec. Actually, never mind. Doesn't matter. If I'm wrong, people will tell me. But yeah. So back to Guardians of the Galaxy 2. The movie was phenomenal. This is kind of going to be a little bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, do feel free to leave or skip over this, because there will be a couple, or not a couple, there will be a couple spots that will ruin it. But other than that, it's fine. So yeah, you've been warned. Anyway, but this movie is kind of, like I said, it's kind of slow at times. It's a little bit boring every now and then, but it keeps your attention, shall we say. Like, it makes it to where it's not overly bearingly boring at times. But it's not even that it's... I shouldn't actually even be saying boring, because the movie is still kind of funny, and it has some crude humor at times. A lot of people don't always approve of crude humor. Some people find it very offensive and shit like that. It's kind of dumb, I would say. But like I said, the movie has some very well done acting. So there's a scene in the movie where Yondu dies. And like I said already, I'm going to ruin this movie. So if you're still here, you've been warned. So at the very end, not like the very end, but the very end of the movie, Yondu actually dies. And, you know, you got Chris Pratt's character Star-Lord, who's sobbing over his mentor, his father, pretty much dying in front of him. You know, willing to sacrifice himself to make sure, you know, not Yondu, Chris Pratt's character stays alive, Star-Lord. You know, and you could like feel the emotion in that scene. You could feel how sad it was going to be. If anybody's ever lost a parent, like think about like how sad that made you. And like it makes, you know, that whole scene more of a makes you feel really sad for all these characters. Like, you know, a character that was just lost, Peter Quill loses his dad, like everything like it could have happened to him. Not the best of scenes. Obviously, I don't want to bring up any, you know, emotions, so that's kind of my take on that. But it's a very sad scene indeed. It is awful. It doesn't make you really feel, you know, happy. It makes you actually feel for these characters. There's also another scene with Peter Quill, Chris Pratt, meets his dad, and this is also towards the end of the movie. His dad admits to killing his mom. Like, how messed up is that? That is so wrong. It is so, like, it angers me listening to it. Like, it actually bothered me, because it's like, why? Why was that even necessary? Why even bother with that? Like, you were so selfish in the fact that you were willing to kill his mom because you didn't want to go back to this planet. So, for those who don't know, the movie, like the sole purpose of this movie, I would say, is Peter Quill meeting his dad and getting to know his dad and him being a celestial spirit or celestial like thing. And it turns out that Peter Quill's dad actually just wants to, you know, take control of the universe kind of thing. He claims to be doing it for, you know, to keep people alive and stuff like that. And, you know, the typical want to take over the world speech. But he didn't want to be drawn back to Earth, so what he does is he puts a tumor in Peter Quill's mom's head and kills her pretty much, because he didn't want his plans to be ruined because of it. Like, how messed up is that? How selfish can you be? Like, it's disheartening, and it actually makes me kind of mad. Like, after watching that scene, I felt really bad for Peter as a character, but at the same time, I was just as annoyed with his dad as Peter is. And actually, what's even funnier about that is Peter just unloads, just destroys his dad, starts shooting him, starts anything angrily that you think he could have done, he probably would have done it. Like, it's that bad. But yeah, that movie is great. Those are just a couple scenes, obviously, that, you know, make you really feel for the characters. But overall, the movie is great. I found it to be amazing. I thought it was awesome. Not just because I'm a fan of the comics or I'm a fan of the shows, fan of like Marvel in general, but like just the fact that the movie was just genuinely good. If you liked the first one, you will like the second one. So now we're gonna get into the one that's a little bit more unknown, and not a whole lot of people knew about it. Some people did, some people didn't, and that is Slight. So what Slight is, it's kind. Have you ever seen the movie Dope? I believe it's called. I think it's the same actor or same director. It kind of has that feel to it, where it's not overly like cinematic, I should say, but more on the side of just like a looks like a fan film. How about that? Like that's what I think of when I think of those kinds of movies. But Slight. So Slight, it's about a kid who is pretty much in debt, not necessarily in debt, but like okay, I'm gonna restart. Hold on. Sorry. So this movie is actually about a kid who is in deep with a bunch of gangsters, a bunch of drug dealers and stuff like that. But on the side, he is a magician. He is, he performs on the streets. He does stuff like that. He's a genius. Anything you could think of that shows magicianry, he is. He is incredibly smart for his age. He even hits a scholarship, which you see in the opening scene. And, just gives it up because his mom does die in the very beginning as well. And it's kind of a sad scene. So it's just him and his sister, living on their own, doing what they're doing. They have a neighbor that comes over every now and then that takes care of them. So, with that being said, him being involved with these gangsters and selling drugs and stuff like that kind of happens because he's trying to take care of his sister and he's trying to do right by her so he can do anything to take care of her. Which I feel like I get, like, watching that movie, that kind of made me be like, yeah, I would do something similar if it was for, like, my family or my sister or my brother or anything. But for him to do that and just be willing to sell drugs and do all that shows a lot about his character as a whole. So, with that being said about the movie, I liked the movie. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't amazing. So, just judged by the overall expression of the crowd, I would say after the movie was over, was kind of disappointed. They thought it was gonna be way better. They thought, wow, I skipped Guardians of the Galaxy to go see this. Like, this movie could have been way better. And I agree, it could have been amazing. It could have been a great movie, but it fell off at some points. It wasn't super fast paced, which I think bothered a lot of people. It was very slow. The dialogue kind of dragged on. It was just kind of wishy-washy. There were some parts that I felt like weren't explained enough. So, for instance, there's a scene in the movie where, you meet, or his girlfriend at the time, which he does meet on later in the story, comes over for dinner and, one of the main baddies, I forgot his name. That's actually another issue that I'll get into. One of the main baddies, comes in, is like, hey, I got a party going on later this week. Come. So, goes throughout a little bit more of the scene in the movie, and then it cuts to this, and he's coming to this dude's party. So, comes to the party, and the dude invites him upstairs and pretty much loses it and starts beating the shit out of him. And it says he cut more of his drugs, blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's just because I don't know what cut drugs means or anything like that. I'm not into the whole CSI, drug kind of things or those kinds of TV shows. But I felt like that wasn't explained enough. It doesn't really even show much about it, I would say. It kind of was just random. It was just a way to make it to where the guy was mad at the other dude. It felt really, really slow and really just not prepared, I would say. But with that being said, there was another issue I talked about a little bit ago, and that was the big bad and not remembering his name. I felt like some of the characters are very forgettable. Like, for instance, I don't even remember the main character's name. Like, that's how much I didn't get the movie sometimes. But for that being, God, I'm stuttering here. not my best moments. But they feel like they don't make their rememberable. Wow, I really just can't speak today. But they're not they're forgettable, straight up. That's how it is. I think they're very forgettable. I don't remember any of their names or anything really about them. All I remember is one of the girls is off of Honey 2, and that movie is terrible. And this is the only movie I think I've seen her in a long time. But I want to like this movie, and I really do, and I do like the movie. There's a lot more that goes on, and a lot of which is not explained again. So actually, let's talk about that a little bit more. So there's actually something in this kid's arm that allows him to move metal. It's an electromagnet. So if you don't know what that is, it's a magnet powered by electricity. It's super powerful, stuff like that. If you've never seen it, there's actually a prank online where people try to get made an electromagnetic Thor hammer, and like they just put it on metal and see if people can pick it up. Anyway, that's just a suggestion. But I didn't get the point of it. Like, I understood it. Like, it makes sense. He wants to be a magician, and magicians always are trying to, outdo another magician or be more popular or more anything, really. Trying to outdo other people. So with that movie with that scene being in it and showing him like, fixing his arm and, trying to like do a bunch of stuff with his arm, it's not very clear to how it actually got there. It does tell you a little bit that he put it in himself, but it's like, where did he find the time and how did he know like to route the wires down his arm and shit into like fingertips and stuff like that? It's very odd. It's very explanatory, my bad, in like just telling us how it is, like how everything began. I feel like like I said, I feel like it's very slow and very it's I give this movie a 6. How about that? I give it like even giving a 6 is very generous. It's just so slow and not very like fluid, I should say. It's not very fluid. It's not very smooth. It's very ups and downs, and this is intense, but then for some reason the next scene is not intense. It's weird. So I'm going to move off of that movie because it's kind of hard to keep talking about it because there's just like, I don't even know where to begin with it. It's not even that great. It's not even that bad. It's just a movie. It's just one of those movies that you just go and see and you hope for the best. So Injustice 2. So I've actually been playing this game for about a week now, and it came out, I believe, on the 16th of May. So it's been about a week. It's almost not been a week. 2 more days and it would have been a week. It's actually Wednesday today when I'm recording this because I recorded another one and I didn't like it, so I just redid it. So Injustice 2, I thought the story was great. It has tons of content, tons of stuff to do, and it's a lot of fun. So the story of Injustice, just to give some people a little bit of background, it is a what-if story. It is, what if Superman just decided, forget it, I'm killing everybody kind of thing. So also to give some more not behind the scenes, but background to the story. So what happens in the first Injustice game as Joker pretty much not poisons Superman, but pretty much like tricks Superman, I should say. Tricks Superman into killing his wife, which is Lois Lane, and their newborn son. So how he goes about doing that is he makes him think that he is fighting, I believe it was Doomsday, is fighting Doomsday, and Superman drags him into space and throws him pretty much, or what he thinks is Doomsday, into into space, and turns out it's Lois. He kills Lois. He kills his own wife and his newborn son, or his not yet born son. And with all the loss and all the tragedy that had just happened right here, he's grieving, and he comes down to Earth and kills the Joker, rips, like pretty much destroys him, punches him straight through his chest and kills him. And obviously Batman is there with him. He just like, what did you just do? Like, why did you do that? And Superman just kind of doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to have to deal with it, and he ends up wanting to completely expunge all criminal activity, and he takes over the world pretty much. He has the Regime, which is his big planet, and he has a lot of the Justice League with him as well. Some of the characters include Cyborg. He has Cyborg underneath him, who agrees with Superman. He had Shazam until he kills Shazam because he disagrees with him. He had the Flash until the Flash left him as well because he didn't agree with it. He kills Green Arrow. He has Green Lantern, who is actually not Green Lantern anymore. He's a Yellow Lantern. He also has Wonder Woman, who's just, who's there trying to cope or help him cope with his pain. and kind of is the forerunner for the reason he turns into the way he is. And it talks about that a lot more in Injustice 2 as well. He also has, I think it's Hawkgirl. She's not in the second one, but he does have Hawkgirl. So that's just a little bit of background going into Injustice 2. So Injustice 2 is more about Brainiac, and if you guys don't know who Brainiac is, he is a AI from the planet Krypton, who I forgot who he's created by, but he's evil as all hell. He actually, in this story, he actually is the one to destroy Krypton. I don't know if that's actually true. I'm not like a big Superman fan, so I don't really read into his comic books all that much. I'm more of a Flash, Green Arrow, and Red Hood kind of person. That's just my opinion. And I do like Batman. He's also not my favorite very much. I do like Batman, but I'm more on the eviler side with that, with Red Hood. But where I was going with that is, so Brainiac actually is the one to destroy Krypton in this game. And you meet a very young Supergirl, and she is pretty much taken by her mother and said, hey, I'm going to kick you out of this planet the same way they did to Kal-El, which is Superman. And they sent her off as well. But her pod got knocked off course, obviously, and she is now stuck in space. And Black Adam and Wonder Woman, I believe, actually find her. So before all that happens, before you actually meet Supergirl again later on in the story, you are playing as Batman. He is, trying to find the rest of the regime. He's trying to find Wonder Woman. He's trying to find Black Adam. He's trying to find all these people who are part of it and stop them. But there's also a new group of almost regime members. I think they're called the Society, who are run by Gorilla Grodd. You have Bane, Cheetah, Catwoman, who has something else to do with the story that I'm not going to get into, Deadshot, Captain Cold, and I think there's one more, but I can't quite remember who it is. But you have the Society, so he has this whole new group of villains he has to deal with, as well as trying to make sure Superman never gets out again, and also dealing with Brainiac. So it's a great story. It's very, very good. It also goes really well with the comic books and everything that's going on. If you read the comics, it almost corresponds with the movie, or not the movie, the game. So without completely ruining the story and keep going, it's a great story. It's a great game. I would suggest playing it. I would suggest playing the first one as well. It's not mandatory, but it's very helpful to know what is happening in the story if you're just getting it to play the story mode. But other than the story mode, there's a lot of other stuff to do on this game. So there's guilds now. I don't remember if there was guilds in the first one, because I didn't really play a whole lot of online gameplay on it. I was more of just like learning different characters kind of thing. I was achievement hunting, but not necessarily playing online, because I'm not the best at fighter games. But I've gotten really good at this one in particular because I liked it. I played it a lot. I've already put in almost a day and a half of gameplay and stuff. Or not gameplay, but hours into the game, because I do enjoy it. I do like playing it. So you have guilds that were just newly introduced. You have armor and, customization things for your character. That's also introduced to this game. You also have the multiverse. So the multiverse is hours of endless fun. So it's always changing. There's actually a time limit on each planet, because it's the multiverse. So you're not always going to see each planet, obviously. So you have hours and hours of content just right there, because the fights are always changing. There's always different modifiers. There's always different power levels. There's big bosses. There's little bosses. Actually there was a planet, I'm not sure if it's still there, where you literally fight until you lose. Like, that is it. You just continuously fight until you lose. It's awesome. So there's hours of content there with that just alone. There's also the online gameplay. The online gameplay is a lot of fun. It is a little buggy, and you do have a lot of people who zone the shit out of you, and it's really annoying. But even there's still hours of content there. You can learn different characters. There's a great roster of characters. If you pre-order the game, you got Darkseid, and they're bringing more characters like Sub-Zero, Starfire, and Red Hood, which I'm most excited about, because I thought he should have been in the first one, but he wasn't. But there's hours of content just right there with the online gameplay and the multiverse. And you also have the great story, which you can go back and play on harder difficulties. And there's 76 fights in it in total, I believe. So there's multiple endings, or there's 2 endings to the game. as well as you can play as two different characters in certain scenes. It's great. I loved this game. I thought it was not great. I thought it was really well done and really well executed. And it should have been, especially with all the hype that was around it. There was so much hype, so for it to actually, continue with the hype and, bring a game that you really do enjoy. So there's also guilds, which I touched on a little bit ago. I just mentioned it. So guilds in this game is obviously what a guild is. Like if you've watched any sort of anime or like Fairy Tail, that's a guild. If you played Call of Duty, like a clan, it's kind of like that. So you have a group of teammates. You also have objectives as a team to beat. So you yourself can play as a solo player, which I usually do when I'm on these kinds of games because I'm not very big into being a part of a team. I'm not the best team player. It's kind of sad. But you have all these things you can do. So there's also the multiverse that is specifically also for your guild. So there's two multiverse like game modes. One is just for single players, which is like me, and then the other ones are some more for guilds. And yes, and for anybody who's asking, yes, I am part of a guild. I'm part of the Court of Owls, which is funny because if you know what that is, it's great. Anyway, so guilds. Sorry. So there's a guilds multiverse, which allows you to fight as a team and take down bigger bosses. With bigger bosses comes bigger rewards, such as gear and shaders and stuff like that. So along with gears and shaders, gear is actually something else that was just newly introduced as well. You can get things that power up your character. So for instance, if you want a better chest piece, it gives you more health and some other stuff. You can have the potential of getting gear that does this. So you can have some that potentially give you more strength, more health, more abilities. You have a little subclass thing, well, not necessarily subclass, but little sub abilities that allow you to do different moves. So for Black Canary, for instance, her character trait is actually her Canary Cry, and you can get an ability that allows you to do a Sky Canary Cry, which means you jump up in the air and you can Canary Cry them into the ground pretty much. That's pretty similar to her super, but not quite the same. So you can also get things that like shaders, for instance, and skins and stuff like that. So also continuing on with the whole gear aspect, it also does change the way your character looks overall. If you want a whole set, you can get a whole set, but doesn't mean a whole set's can be that great. But you can also get shaders and stuff like that. So if you want your character to look, like a demon, there is literally a skin called Demon and there's one called God, and I have both of them. You can also get skins such as the Flash can look like the Reverse Flash. The only issue I would say with that is that your gear doesn't actually pop up on your skin, which kind of sucks because I would like to see the Flash or the Reverse Flash look completely different, but can't win them all, can't have everything. Yeah, Supergirl gets a Power Girl skin, and you get to play as Power Girl, but again, none of your shaders or anything appears on that character because it's just a skin. Jon Stewart, you can play as Jon Stewart, but it's just a skin, which also sucks because, okay, this is more of a pet peeve for me. Is I grew up watching Jon Stewart, not as much Hal Jordan. I don't really like Hal Jordan all that much. I do like Jon Stewart way more because I loved the Justice League TV show, and Hal Jordan is just he's just Hal Jordan. Like, I don't really like him very much as a character, and I know some people might actually agree with me for that, but I particularly don't. But he is also a skin. I'm trying to think if there's any more. Oh, this is actually kind of funny, and I didn't realize this until like a couple days into the game, I want to say, is Captain Cold actually has a Mr. Freeze skin, and Cheetah has a Vixen skin. I didn't know that. For some reason, it never dawned on me that, like, hey, I wonder other characters have skins, but they do. And that's funny. I thought that was great. So what do I give this game as a whole? What do I give this game as a rating? I'm going to give it a 9 as well. Again, there's just some small issues. There's a little bit of lag, and the zoning gets really annoying, and not being able to see your skins or your gear on other skins is kind of why I won't give it a 10. And those are little things. Those are little things that can be easily fixed with a patch to give this game a solid 10. This game is great. I love it. I hope a lot of you guys actually go and pick it up. I truly do enjoy this game, and it's a lot of fun to play, and it's great game I would say to learn as a newcomer to fighting games. If you want to learn something new and play different games, there's obviously an abundance amount of video games you can play. There are also other fighters. There's Tekken. There's Mortal Kombat. There's Killer Instinct. There's Super Smash Bros. Melee or Brawl or anyway, any of those games really. And then I think there's one more, but I can't remember. There's tons of games. Doesn't matter. There's a ton of them. So if you want to pick up any new games, I would suggest this one. With that being said, and all the reviews being done, my name is Elijah, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Peace.